the Three Castles Orangemen. Historical notes on the Orange institution in the city of Dublin. To the glorious, pious and immortal memory of the great and good King William, not forgetting Oliver Cromwell, who assisted in redeeming us from popery, slavery, arbitrary power, brass money and wooden shoes. May we never want a Williamite to kick the ass of a Jacobite, and a fart for the Bishop of Cork. And he that won't drink this, whether he be a priest, bishop, deacon, bellows blower, grave digger, or any other of the fraternity of the clergy, may a north wind blow him to the south and a west wind to the east. May he have a dark night, a lee shore, a rank storm, and a leaky vessel to carry him over the river Styx. May the dog Cerberus make a meal of his rump, and Pluto a snuff box of his skull, and may the devil jump down his throat with a red hot harrow, with every pin tear out a gut, and blow him with a clean carcass to hell. Amen. The charter toast of the aldermen of Skinner's Alley. Following their removal at the behest of James II from Dublin Corporation in 1688 for being Protestants, several aldermen began to meet secretly in a tavern in Skinner's Alley and vowed to continue to do so until they were restored to their positions by King William III. They are pointed out by many as being the first manifestation of Orangeism in Ireland, and with it the beginnings of a tradition in Dublin City that is still alive today after over 3 centuries. On the 11th anniversary of the Battle of the Boyne, 1st of July 1701, a statue of King William III was erected in Dublin's College Green. At that time, Dublin was still very much a Protestant city. Protestants had actually accounted for at least 70% of its population back in 1644. And therefore in Dublin, the events in Ireland over the previous decades were seen as both attacks on Protestantism and in turn deliverance for Protestantism. If the aldermen of Skinner's Alley were the first Orange organisation in Ireland, for almost the full century to follow, the College Green statue facilitated public rituals in Dublin City that long before the formation of the Orange institution were most definitely Williamite. These rituals took the form of practices that would become synonymous with Orangeism and as Orange traditions, namely parades, commemorations, bonfires, fireworks and church ceremonies. When the Orange institution was formed following the Battle of the Diamond near Loughgall in September 1795, it took less than 2 years for the new order to reach Dublin. On the 4th of June 1797, the first Orange Lodge in the city came into existence. Dublin was the administrative headquarters of Ireland and the gateway to an entrance from Britain and the rest of the world. It was where the most influential men on the island spent the bulk of their time, and immediately it took a prominent place within the institution. It was this lodge, Royal Orange Lodge 176, comprised of over 300 gentlemen, that was the catalyst to turn the new Orange into a national movement. High-profile members ensured prestige, and despite the formation of the Grand Orange Lodge of Ulster in 1797, on the 9th of April 1798, it was superseded by a Dublin-formed and based Grand Lodge of Ireland. By the 12th of July 1798, 5 Orange Lodges were active in Dublin, each with a very large membership. When the Act of Union was proposed, Orangemen across Ireland were of mixed opinions on its benefits and indeed its general good. In Dublin, the differences were manifest in particularly vocal fashion, with the majority of Dublin-based Orangeism fundamentally opposed to the Act. Efforts from Grand Lodge to stop division in the ranks by effectively advising the subject should be just be avoided did alleviate internal disruption to some extent in the institution, but strength of feeling in Dublin was strong. It was Dublin where power was exercised politically and economically, and there was real fear that that power would be diminished. On the 5th of February 1798, following a meeting of Dublin LOL 500, they adopted an address that challenged the integrity of the Grand Lodge decision, stated their belief that the extinguishing of their separate legislature would equate to the extinction of the Irish nation, and called for the immediate election of a Grand Lodge who were not under influences. Two further Dublin lodges, LOL 651 and 652, backed this address. Just to go over it, part of it. To all brother Orangemen, conscious as we are of our loyalty to His Majesty George III and of our attachment to the happy constitution of this kingdom, as established in 1782, we have beheld with surprise and concern an address from the Grand Lodge to all Orangemen, entreating of them to be silent on a question whereby that constitution is attacked, and whereby the loyalty of the most valuable part of our countrymen is shaken and endangered. We cannot think it is the duty of an Orangeman to submit implicitly in all cases of the utmost moment to the directions of a lodge which is principally composed of persons who are under a certain influence. Grievances, these strong grievances, began to alleviate following the implementation of the Act, with the anger of some tempered with relative unchanging circumstances, indeed the beginning of improved circumstances, and the focus switching to other political matters and causes. Orangeism in the city thrived, with the now long established annual custom of decorating the statue of William III in orange ribbon and other colourful garb continuing unabated. The statue of William had attracted negative attention since its erection, vandalism being reasonably common. However, by 1806, the levels of resentment from the Dublin Catholic community at its presence began to rise significantly. When the Dublin Orange Lodges paraded to the statue of William on the 12th of July in 1806, several Dublin newspapers publicly criticised the celebrations for the first time, while in 1813 the statue was pelted with dirt following several celebrations. In 1822, after the statue was dressed, as it was referred to, on the 12th of July there was a serious riot, with between 500 and 600 people involved in pelting the Orangemen, yeomanry and police with stones. The statue remained a focal point for Dublin Orangemen to greater or lesser degrees for many years to follow, despite the protests. In 1898, the book Ireland in Pictures stated that no statue in the world has been subject to so many vicissitudes. It has been insulted, mutilated and blown up so many times, the original figure is now a battered wreck. Following an explosion on the 11th of November, Armistice Day, in 1929, it was removed from its siting of 228 years. It was the oldest statue still extant in Dublin. It lay in storage at the Dublin Corporation paving depot in South Gloucester Street until September 1949, when the work of art, almost 250 years old, was ceremoniously destroyed with sledgehammers for photographers. During the history of the Orange Institution, it was voluntarily dissolved in an official capacity several times to comply with different legislation. Indeed, often legislation was deliberately designed to target the organisation. Despite this, and the sometime taking of new guises, such as Orange and Protestant Conservative or Orphan Societies, For all intensive purposes, it never ceased to exist in its original footing. Names changed, the publicised rules changed, and the format of meetings changed, but the de facto Orange Lodges continued to function. By 1835, the City of Dublin Grand Orange Lodge consisted of 15 private lodges, underneath the Grand Mastership of Joseph Paisley. During the 1840s, it rose to 31 lodges, and it reached a numerical peak in the 1850s when it boasted an incredible 43 Orange Lodges. Each lodge had its own very distinctive identity, adopting a moniker celebrating an important event, person, place, or simply slogan in the history of Irish Protestantism. An early listing of lodges gives some of the lodge titles as Cumberland, Pembroke, Oldbridge, Pride of Orange, Kingstown True Blues, George Walker, Williamite, Wycliffe, Constitution, Brunswick, Ernest Augustus, Royal William, Adelaide, Royal Schomburg, No Surrender, Enniskillen, Latimer, and Hanover. In 1887, still with 33 active lodges operating, its membership was referenced as being 4,000 City of Dublin Orangemen. Now, during its existence, the Dublin Orange Institution collectively had utilised many properties for its business within the confines of the city, with some of the most notable being the Mansion House and Dublin Metropolitan Hall. Some private lodges established their own specific meeting places, such as the Duke of York and Brunswick lodges, who often gathered in Molesworth Hall. The first significant dedicated premises for the entirety of the City of Dublin Grand Lodge were 8 Hume Street, just off St Stephen's Green, before relocating to 49 York Street, which became the base for both Dublin Orangeism and the Grand Orange Lodge of Ireland. In 1870, it was acknowledged that the York Street venue simply was not large enough for requirements, and Dublin Orange and Protestant Hall Committee was convened to gather funds for the purchase or building of a suitable new building or venue for the Dublin Institution and Grand Lodge. Premises were purchased in what was both a central and indeed a very high profile location in the city, Rutland Square, and from 1879 the new home of the institution was officially 10 Rutland Square East. Such was the scale of activity by the turn of the 20th century. As well as being the home of most Dublin lodges, it was also the headquarters for the Grand Orange Lodge of Ireland and the Grand Black Chapter, Imperial Black Chapter of Ireland. In 1907 it was decided to build an annex to the rear of the Rutland Square building. At this time, the premises were referenced as being one of the very few in Dublin from which the Union Jack flies almost daily. On the 10th of November 1908, the Fowler Memorial Hall was officially opened at a final cost of £2,500, named after John Robert Fowler of 7 Duncan Street in Bray, a highly respected long-serving officer in the City of Dublin Grand Lodge who had died suddenly in 1898 while still holding the office of County Grand Master of the City of Dublin Grand Orange Lodge. Alongside several side rooms, meeting rooms and offices, the annex contained a ground and a first floor hall, each of which was capable of accommodating 800 people. Throughout the 19th century, the prime manifestation of Orange celebrations in Dublin were annual soirees and reunions. The largest of the year's occasions was always held on the evening of the 12th of July, with the occasion of the anniversary of King William's birthday on the 4th of November coming a close second. The most commonly used venue was the round room at the Rotunda. This massive spherical room attached to Dublin's Rotunda Hospital was designed to host fundraising, concerts and events for the hospital, and it was utilised by all sections of Dublin society, but it proved particularly perfect for Orange functions. A typical gathering saw the Rotunda doors opened at 6:30 p.m. The walls would be festooned with the banners of each of the city's Orange lodges, with balloons, streamers and other signage proclaiming suitable loyal slogans. An average attendance, as reported annually by the Dublin newspaper the Daily Express, would be around 2,000. As brethren and women streamed into the venue, the senior officers of lodge and district present took a place of prominence on a platform, joined regularly by high-profile Orangemen from across Ireland and indeed beyond. Towards the end of the 19th and into the early 20th century, these 12th celebrations sometimes moved to the 11th or forward to the 13th in order to allow brethren to travel elsewhere to participate in parades, such as in 1903 when 700 Dublin Orangemen travelled to Liverpool to participate in the annual demonstration there. Massive orange parades in Dublin City were simply not a realistic option in terms of safety of participants for most of the century. But parading was still in the genes of the Orange men and women, and the Rotunda provided an outlet. At 7:30 p.m. each year, to the strains of the Dublin Orange Fife and Drum Band or the Loyal Orange Brass and Reed Band, the attending brethren in full regalia would form into ranks and proceed to parade around the massive hall, making several circuits and giving the salute to the platform party. An itinerary of speeches from the platform was often broken up with musical interludes from vocalists or a string band, most of which tended to be of a popular nature as opposed to being of a political one. The annual July Orange event in the Rotunda was without doubt the most important public manifestation of Orangeism within the city. Over the centuries, many distinguished men held the reins at the top of the county institution, that is, the City of Dublin County Grand Lodge, via the office of Grand Master, some presiding over more turbulent periods than others. The man who took the city into one of the most difficult was Colonel Henry Edward Maxwell, holding top office during the peak of the Home Rule crisis, the outbreak of and the continuing Great War. The former commander of the 2nd Battalion Black Watch, Maxwell saw distinguished service in India and in South Africa, where he was awarded the DASO before retiring and spending his time between homes in Dublin and Mount Nugent in County Cavan. As the Ulster Volunteer Force were being formed to prevent the imposition of Home Rule in the north of Ireland, Colonel Maxwell's military pedigree without doubt was the prime catalyst for the formation of the Dublin anti-Home Rule army, the Loyal Dublin Volunteers. As Grand Master in the city, Maxwell utilised the local Orange institution as the basis for the force, to the extent that the very proposal to form it came at a county lodge meeting. He eventually would become commander of this regiment and also of the first of its 2 battalions. On the 12th of July 1914, 2 specially chartered trains transported 1,200 people to participate in the Belfast procession. Many of the men who took part in the parade were said to have been wearing bandoliers. Upon the return of the men from Belfast into a Main Street station, now Connolly Station, at 10:30 that night, they formed into parade order and, accompanied by several bands, made their way to Rutland Square via Abbey and O'Connell Street. One young Orangeman was later attacked on his way home, but it was reported that during the parade itself, various bodies of police were stationed along the route, and their intervention was not required at any stage. Local Orangeism embraced the war effort, with many Orangemen serving in the 36th Ulster Division because of their membership of the loyal Dublin Volunteers, and substantially more finding their way into diverse formations across the entire services. The scale Orangeism in the city played in the Great War was tallied and in the public domain before the armistice was even declared. On the evening of Wednesday the 15th of May 1918, a gathering of Orangemen in the Fowler Hall joined together to unveil a roll of honour to their brethren who had embraced the colours. The chairman of the committee appointed to compile the roll informed those present that he believed that it was unique in that every branch of the service was represented within its number. Both the Northern Whig and Belfast Newsletter noted that the listing contained 340 names, of which 30 had been killed, 21 had obtained commission rank, and 30 had made the supreme sacrifice. The roll was unveiled by Sir James Strong, Grand Master of Ireland, who expressed pride that so many members of the institution in Dublin had freely taken their place in the ranks when the call was first sounded. Upon reciting "To the glory of God, and in loving memory of the heroism and self-sacrifice of our brethren who fell on the field of battle in noble defence of equity, truth and righteousness," the roll was revealed to the strains of the national anthem. Of the many names on the extensive listing, the one singled out for special attention in the northern newspapers was the Reverend John Thom, curate of St Catherine's Church in the city, the site of which had been the location for the execution of Robert Emmet in 1803. Thom enlisted December 1915, embarked for France on the 4th of March 1916 in the service of the Army Chaplains Department. Exemplary service saw the Reverend Thom being awarded the Military Cross no less than 3 separate times. He survived the war, however. He was directly affected by its hardship just a few months after arriving on mainland Europe, when his brother Nathaniel lost his life at the Somme on the 1st of July. Statistically in Ireland, approximately 1 in 9 men served in the forces. As such, it is notable that in terms of war service, the men of the city of Dublin Grand Orange Lodge contributed proportionally to the war effort, well in excess of the national average. During the rebellion in Dublin, little record remains of the activity or reaction of local loyalism and Orangeism. Several records of the City of Dublin District Loyal Orange Lodge 3 shows that they didn't meet in May, while the City of Dublin Grand Orange Lodge didn't resume meeting until June, previous to which it had met every month. And within both sets of minutes, there's only a cursory reference to the rebellion. City Grand Lodge did pass on its condolences for the murder of the son of Brother Morgan during Easter week. However, clues to any other deaths within the ranks are scant. One of the strangest stories of Easter week involved the Orange, however, and ironically a northern loyalist. David Norrie, General Secretary of the Apprentice Boys of Derry in Londonderry City, and Dublin Orangeman and Orange Hall caretaker George Parker had been in the Orange Hall from Easter Monday until Thursday. Norrie had been in the city to officially open a new branch of the Londonderry fraternity. When they left the premises on Thursday evening, they were arrested by soldiers and, being mistaken for rebels, found themselves incarcerated in Kilmainham jail. After remaining there for 9 days, they were then shipped to Holyhead with other Easter week rebels before being released after representations. When the civil war between pro-treaty and anti-treaty elements of the IRA erupted in 1921, the Orange Order was forced out of Fowler Hall. Anti-treaty IRS seized the building, at first ironically proclaiming that they were using it as a refugee centre for the North, and later as their headquarters. In the process, destroying many important documents relating to All Ireland Irish Williamite history, to the Dublin and national Orangeism, and to the loyal Dublin volunteers. This was to effectively signal the beginning of a de facto Orange exodus from the city. The last Orange procession recorded happened in 1938 and was attacked as they made their way to board trains to travel to the 12th in Northern Ireland. An interesting aside came in June 1935 when a Dublin Board of Works employee was among a group working and was now part of the Dublin GPO, the men having been assigned to remove presses from the cellar of the GPO Customs Partial Section 10 Parnell Square, formerly Rutland Square. When several presses were removed, mortar appeared insecure and when touched collapsed. Within a hidden chamber laid a massive arms cache. The rifles found in the cellar were the UVF favoured weapons of Lee Enfield and Martini Henry. Some were stamped "For God and Ulster" and accompanied by packages of Bible tracts and cap badges. The weapons had belonged to the loyal Dublin volunteers. In 1914, there had been separate county Grand Lodges for the City of Dublin, for the County of Dublin, for Trinity College Dublin, and for a joint authority of Wicklow and County Wexford. Within these four jurisdictions, they accounted for some 43 Orange Lodges, while there were also a further 8 Royal Black Preceptories active. A merging of Dublin City and County was followed by the incorporation of Wicklow and Wexford, and a combined Dublin and Wicklow jurisdiction came into being. By 1937, there were just 8 male Orange Lodges working in the city, alongside 4 black preceptories. Such was the speed of decline that in 1941, of the 3 properties still in the ownership of the City of Dublin Grand Orange Lodge, that is the Grand Orange Hall in Rutland Square, Rathmines Orange Hall and Northumberland Road Orange Hall, only one of them was actually being used, with the other 2 rented to tenants. Concerns within Grand Lodge regarding the properties was manifest, with the situation placed under review. In 1942, it was accepted that the question of trusteeship over the buildings was satisfactorily dealt with. However, it was already apparent that continuing numerical deterioration of the local order would eventually see the disposal of the buildings. By 1953, only 5 Dublin Orange Lodges remained. This strength was maintained into the 60s, with in 1965 the combined Dublin Loyal Orders having 5 male lodges, 3 female lodges and 1 black preceptory. Despite declining numbers, the Dubliners unsurprisingly continued to travel north each July to commemorate the Battle of the Boyne. In 1957, they chose Armagh to take part in, while in 1960, 13 Dublin men, just 13, were on parade in Belfast. Like the Belfast 12th in 1961, however, they were often awarded pride of place at the head of the procession. In 1962, 20 Dublin and Wicklow natives led the parade along Royal Avenue. In 1964, a party of Dublin Orangemen participated in the County Armagh 12th Parade in Keady, while in 1970 brethren from Dublin and Wicklow participated in the Belfast 12th procession and received spontaneous applause along the parade route, although it was noted that the number of men behind its banner was few. Just 5 days previously to that parade, on the 7th of July, a Dublin newspaper office had received a statement from an organisation styling itself the Irish Freedom Fighters. The statement gave an unequivocal ultimatum to several businessmen in Dublin to get out or burn, alongside a ridiculous allegation that some of them were members of the UVF. In 1972, speaking on the platform in Belfast, the Reverend Martin Smith revealed that the Dublin Brethren had received letters threatening them if they travelled to Belfast, and when these letters were given to Gardaí, they were informed by guards that nothing could be done. He also alleged that several brethren had physically been prevented crossing the border after ignoring the threat. From this point on, numbers travelling north for the 12th would appear to have been negligible, to the extent that it was rarely noted upon in the media. When the Rusnella Orange commemoration in Donegal was resumed in 1978, after having been abandoned in 1970, the southern venue and occasion became a significant and perhaps more meaningful focus for the remaining Dublin and Wicklow Orangemen. Today, the one remaining private Orange Lodge in Dublin is the Dublin and Wicklow Loyal Orange Lodge 1313. Originally a County Cavan warrant, LOL 1313 was formed in 1949 specifically to give a place for North Wicklow Orange Brethren in Dublin who no longer could maintain private lodges in their home county. The lodge meets in its own dedicated Orange Hall in the south of the city and has a vibrant membership that includes, alongside the Dubliners within its ranks, Orangemen living in Limerick, Kildare, Longford and several other Irish counties. One of the most recent recruits is an American-born Hungarian national, an attorney who currently resides in Switzerland. The once active and influential Trinity College Orange Lodge has also been reconstituted for alumni of the famous university. Orangeism in Dublin is vibrant and promises much for the future. However, there remains much of its past and future worthy of examination and discussion. On the platform in Rusnella in 1982, Brother Edward McGuigan, affirming that he represented the Orangemen of Dublin and Wicklow, caused controversy when he stated, "I don't want to give offence, but the Protestant community in this country has suffered greatly at the hands of the mafia." In his address, Brother McGuigan told the assembled crowd, primarily Orangemen and their families who lived in the Republic of Ireland, that "I have lived in the city of Dublin for 50 years now, but I dare not put my collaret on me. I could not wear the collaret in Dublin, and if I did, it would be a short way to commit suicide."